Hello everyone and welcome to our recap of round 8 FIDE Candidates 2024. I'm here with you, Grandmaster Nitzan Steinberg, and as you can see, the background is FCB Barcelona, my favorite football team. So yeah, another part of my life that I really likes to see football, and of course Barcelona, you know, the legends. A lot of years with Messi, Neymar, Suarez, Ronaldinho, Samuel Eto'o when I was a child, Thierry Henry, today with Xavi as a coach, and of course Iniesta in his past. So yeah, this is my favorite team. So another fact on me. So let's start with the round 8, the game between Nepomniachtchi against Abasov. Okay, so e4, Nepomniachtchi is playing e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. The Russian defense, Petrov, knight takes e5. We already saw some games by Nepomniachtchi himself with the black pieces. He is playing this variation. d6, knight f3, knight takes e4, d3 was played by Jan. I must tell you that until now we saw the d4, d5, bishop d3. Now we saw one game with bishop d6, one game, I think, bishop d6 was played the both of the games, but here was like castle and rook e1, and also c4 and knight c3. So in this position, Nepomniachtchi is playing the move d3. Another interesting move to play, knight c3, knight takes, d takes, bishop e7, bishop e3, castle, queen d2, and castle long. And it's really interesting lines here. I also played this variation with white pieces, but the most interesting thing that I can tell you, that after knight takes e4, my point of view on this one is to play d3. As I already showed to you in one of the videos, knight f6, d4, and d5, bishop d3, bishop d6, castle. I'm not sure if you remember, h3, h6, rook e1, and knight c3. The point to bring the knight here, if c6, knight e5, and bishop f4, queen f3. And it's interesting line here. But in the game was played d5, bishop d3, and now Abasov is playing the move c5. I think it's logical for black to play this move, because now he wants maybe to play the move c4, and you know, like to kick away this bishop to e2, and maybe after it to bring the bishop on f5. So let's see what happened. Castle c4. Now there is opportunity to play rook e1 check, and after bishop e7, bishop f1, castle b3, takes, knight c6 for example. And bishop f5, and it seems to be fine for black here. There is some variations here. I think bishop d3. One is one of the moves here, and knight b4. Yeah, just bishop a3. Yeah, this is the problem. So bishop d3 here and c3, and somehow to bring the bishop to f4, knight bd2, knight f1, knight g3 maybe, knight f5. Interesting line to play with the white pieces, but also black should be fine there. So bishop e2 was played. After 6 minutes of thinking, Nepomniachtchi is playing the move bishop e2, knight c6, b3, takes, bishop d6. It seems that black is just fine. I'm not sure that it's a little bit surprising to me to see that Nepomniachtchi is not playing immediately the move rook e1. Because after bishop e2, he didn't get anything from the position. The bishop was already on d6, and in the line of rook e1, the bishop was in e7. So bishop on d6, yeah. So let's see, bishop d6, c4 was played by Jan. Wants to bring the pawn into the center, knight c3, bishop g5, rook e1. And somehow to attack this pawn on d5, and also maybe c5, and in some variation b4, b5. So castle, Abasov is doing the best move in the position, knight c3, and just h6. I like the way that Abasov played here. that doesn't matter this pawn. Of course, if c takes d5, just knight b4, bishop f5, this pawn will be very weak on d5. So yeah, it seems that h6 is a very strong move, just blocking the opportunity to play bishop g5 and avoiding from the c1 bishop to development. So h6, strong move, I think, by Abasov. C takes d5. You can see 25 minutes of thought Jan Nepomniachtchi spent here. I think h3 also makes sense. One of also interesting line here, maybe knight b5 to play. Just want to kick this bishop, and if he's going here, you can put your bishop on f4, and if he's going back here, you will put bishop a3 maybe. So it's really nice move, I think, by white. And of course now you would like to take this bishop on d6 and have the two bishops for white. Maybe bishop a3. Yeah, it's so knight b5 is interesting move, but c takes d5, I'm not sure about this. Knight b4, knight e5, just take the pawn, take, bishop c4, bishop e6, very logical, just protecting the knight on d5, queen f3, and now bishop b4 was played. Of course, the point is that queen is protecting this knight on d5, and this pawn is weak. a6, b5, maybe rook c8, rook e8, and it seems like black is just fine. Also bishop c3 in some variations could be interesting tactic for black. So queen g3 was played. Of course, bishop h6, this is a threat. King h8, prophylactic move. Rook a2, this is a brilliant move, I think, and really, like really surprising, I think, by Jan. He wants to bring the rook to e2. He understands that this bishop cannot develop. Not here, it's not so nice. On f4 not, g5 no, d2 no. So let's bring the rook here, right? And bishop to b2 is just not doing nothing, because the d4 pawn is just blocking him for playing. So rook a2, interesting move. Wants maybe to bring the rook to here, and maybe here, because rook e1. White cannot be played because of this bishop on b4. So rook a2 was played, a5, rook e2, queen b6, rook a4, like we saw, and Jan Nepomniachtchi is bringing the rook into the game. But knight c3, I think Abasov, like he calculated this variation, and he understands that, for example, after rook h4, nothing to worry, because bishop c4 and black is just winning. After knight e2 check, and the queen is this is a fork, so yeah, bishop c4 is just winning the game. And here the only move by white is to play rook e3, because this square needs to be protected by white. So bishop takes c4, knight takes, and just queen takes d4. Black is just pawn up, bishop b2, b5. The point is just after bishop takes c3, bishop takes, rook takes, and b takes c4. This is a dead draw, I think. Rook c4, queen d2, and of course it will end by a draw. So rook takes c3, of course bishop takes c3, it's a blunder. Bishop takes and a checkmate here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, queen takes g7, it's a checkmate. So b takes c4, rook c2, and c3, and rook takes. Of course here also bishop takes, it's the draw here, and they can agree to a draw, but Jan Nepomniachtchi wanted to play a little bit more, and he played the move rook c3, bishop d6, queen f3, bishop e5, and they exchanged some pieces. It seems like, a very, very drawish position, and they play some moves, and it seems like Jan has a little bit advantage here to play king a3, king a4, but nothing to worry for Abasov. He's bringing the pawn on f6, but he claiming that his rook on e2 is very aggressive and well positioned. So b4 just take, bishop e3, and king is coming, bishop c1, king is coming, rook e5. It seems like it's also a drawish position, because this pawn up for white is nothing. You can just play with no mistakes. Of course, bishop g5 h takes g5, not to play with the rook, because this is a winning position by very easily for white. So yeah, bishop g5 is a draw because of h takes. Bishop f2 was played, rook d5, king e2, rook d2, and you know, the black pieces are very good placed, and that's it. g3, check, 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 and rook a2 with bishop e3. This is the threat. Of course, f4 is not good because of bishop f6, and the next move will be bishop d4, so it's not so good for white. So yeah, they agreed to a draw. Jan Nepomniachtchi with Abasov, against Abasov, did a draw with white pieces. I assume that Jan Nepomniachtchi wanted to win this game, but he didn't succeed. Abasov played very good, the Petrov line, this opening. So let's move to the second game of round 8. We have Nakamura against Fabiano Caruana. Let's see. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, the Spanish, the Rui Lopez. So let's see how Fabiano is playing here. a6, bishop a4, knight f6. You know, in before this game, I speak with a lot of my friends, and they told me that the last games between Hikaru Nakamura against Fabiano Caruana were finished by win by Hikaru with white pieces. So it seems that Fabiano has a little bit problems against Hikaru with the white pieces. So let's see how it gone. d3, this variation, Hikaru is playing bishop c5, a castle, d6, c3, castle, and rook e1. It seems like Hikaru is on his prep. Of course, Fabiano also. Knight e7 was played, knight bd2, knight g6, knight f1, very symmetrical position. d5 by Fabiano. It seems like both of the players are not familiar with this position already, because Fabiano spent already 24 minutes and Hikaru 13 minutes. So d5 was played, e takes, knight takes d5. And now the point is, after knight takes e5, you can maybe think for yourself. There is a very beautiful move, bishop takes f2, and the point is that after knight takes e5, I will not take back this knight, I will play d4, and this is quite good for white, because bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, knight g6, bishop b3, and two bishops in opening position. It's really, really great. So in this position, bishop f2, this is the move, king takes, and now knight takes e5. Of course, after rook takes e5, queen f6, and you're blundering this rook on e5. So in this position, I think king g1 seems to be correct, because you want just to move away from the center with the king. And the next move will be d4, knight g3, bishop c2. Also seems to be very good position. But yeah, I'm not sure why Hikaru didn't took the pawn on e5, but he thought like 1 minute on this position on bishop b3 also makes sense, I think, because the bishop on a4 is doing nothing here. So bishop b3, bringing the bishop into the really powerful diagonal for this bishop, for the white bishop in the Spanish opening. So c6, and now knight d4 was played. Also here knight takes e5 was a move. Bishop takes f2, king takes knight e5, and now also king g1. And it seems like white is just better. I'm not sure why Hikaru didn't play this one, but it seems like, okay, knight g6, of course, bishop f5, queen f6, rook e8 will be, but I also will play knight d2, d4, queen f3. I'm not sure about this position for black. Personally, I like here white. So he played the move d4, also one move to play. E takes d4 and knight takes d4 and knight f6. It seems like black is just doing okay. Bishop g4 will come, queen d7, rook e8, rook d8, and there is nothing to worry about for Fabiano. h3, bishop takes d4. Very interesting choice by Fabiano. He's replacing his bishop against this knight on d4, but he achieved this weak pawn on d4. So a knight d5 will be a very big blockade here, and this pawn in the next future, you know, he will be very weak if we will exchange some pieces, the bishops, the queens, the rooks, this pawn will be weak, and this knight could handle this pawn. So bishop c2, and now I think just black is maybe better. After rook e8, for example, just one move by one move to exchange all the pieces from the board, and this weak pawn will be weak until the end of the game, and maybe black will succeed to take it one day. So rook e8, I think. Also bishop e6 makes sense, queen d7, bishop f5, and connecting the rooks. So knight g3 was played, knight df4, rook e4, knight d5. I'm not sure about this move, knight df4. I think just rook e8, queen c7, rook a d8, and black is just fine. Nothing to worry about. Knight e4, knight c5, but bishop f5 will be. So yeah, I'm not sure what is the plan for white to play in the next moves here. So knight df4, rook e4, knight come back, and a3. Caro is just improving his position. Don't want to let knight b4 in the next future. Rook e8 was played, bishop d2, another development of the bishop, knight f6, and now bishop g5 was played, h6, takes, and queen d2. Also in this position it seems like black is doing fine. Bishop d5, for example, I think it's need to be fine. For example, knight h5, queen g5, takes here, probably take here, maybe take here, knight g3. These 3 pawns in a row, but this strong bishop, I'm not sure what is the evaluation of this position. But yeah, I can understand Fabiano that he didn't wanted to go for this endgame, because now f3, king f2, rook e1. But f3 is not so good because rook e3 will come. Yeah, it's an interesting position to think about and analyze. But here Fabiano played the move queen g5, rook e3, and now knight f4. Also, I think rook a d8. This is the last piece that are not working, so just bring it away. Bring it into the game with maybe some c5, maybe queen f6. This pawn is weak. And yeah, rook a d8 makes sense for me. But was played a knight f4. 20 minutes Fabiano spent on this move, knight f4. It's really interesting to see this move, because why not to play with the rook, bringing the last piece into the game. So knight f4, h4 by Nakamura, queen takes h4, just rook e4, I think g5, and rook a e1, and it seems like the queen is a little bit trapped, and this knight cannot move, and also the king a little bit not safe here in the center after g5. So yeah, I understand Fabiano that he didn't take this pawn. He played the move queen d5, rook e4, and knight g6, rook a e1, bringing the pieces into the game. Knight f8, Fabiano with 11 minutes for 12 moves. Wow, it's a little bit problematic here. Also in this position, rook a d8, bring the rook into the game, and this knight is doing great job here, because rook e5 cannot be played. But maybe h5, maybe f4, I'm not sure. In this position I think white is already better and pressing. Knight f8, rook e5, queen d8, and h5. Caro just each last move he's very strong and like powerful. So h5, now this knight will be very disabled. Queen d3 maybe, and yeah, it's not easy to play. Bishop d7 was played, and I think this was one of the mistakes. I think queen b6 and rook a d8. This pawn is weak. Let's attack him. Let's bring the next rook into the game. But Fabiano, I don't know why. Maybe something psychological. But he didn't play with all the pieces. He played the move bishop d7. Very very passive way to play. Takes, knight f5. And now so much attacks here. Knight e7, knight h6 maybe, queen takes, rook e3, rook g3. A lot of attacks here. Queen f6 was played to defend this pawn. Queen b4, also attacking this pawn. Also maybe knight e7. Yeah, knight e7 with some jumps. So b5, and now knight e7 check, king h8, and knight d5. and the game is over. Fabiano Caruana is losing this game, very surprising to see Fabiano is losing in such way game, but I think some interesting psychological things here against Hikaru, and Hikaru achieved a very important win to be in with 4.5 out of 8. Is coming back, Hikaru Nakamura. Let's see the third game of this round. We have Vidit against Gukesh. So with white pieces, Vidit, e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. The Italian game was chosen by Vidit. Knight f6, d3, a6 was played by Gukesh. You probably know the move bishop e7 or bishop c5, d5 also one move here, but a6 it's a little bit surprising, and he played castle after 20 minutes of thoughts. Vidit is playing castle, just castle, 20 minutes, unbelievable. h6, another interesting move, a6, h6. You see Gukesh is playing very kind and special in this tournament. a4, bishop c5, bishop e3, and d6. Gukesh is playing fast with confidence and already has half an hour more than his opponent from the same country, Vidit. Knight bd2, castle c3. As you already know, in Italian game with white pieces, we would like to push d4 somehow and maybe to bring the knight on g3. And also for black, a lot of times we were playing knight e7, knight g6, and c6, d5, and symmetrical ideas. Rook e8 was played, b4, bishop takes e3, f takes e3, and bishop e6. Just remove this bishop, this strong bishop, and this diagonal from this one, and wants to exchange it. b5 was played, rook b8, bishop takes e6, rook takes e6, queen c2, knight bd7. Very logical by Gukesh, just improving his pieces, and d4 was played. And now queen e8. After d4, we need to recognize that this pawn on e4, it's a little bit weak, and we would like to attack him. d4 was also to bring the pawn into the center, and also to prevent from knight c5. But queen e8 with the threat, maybe e takes d4, and this pawn on e4 will fail. So rook a e1. The point after e takes, we will take with e, and rook will manage to help the defend on e4 square. So he played the move a takes b5, just wants to open the a file for the rook, and rook a5, very logical, attacking this pawn, wants to bring the queen on a8, and maybe to control this a file. c4, queen a8, h3. It seems like Vidit has no serious plan here. Rook e8, also another very strong move, I think, by Gukesh. Is understanding that the rook is e6 is not doing much. Let's put it on e8. Maybe this rook will come also via a file. King h2, b6. Another very strong move, I think, to open this diagonal for the queen. Rook f2, rook a2, queen d3, rook a3, queen b1, queen a4 is coming with the queen. It's it's an unbelievable game, I think, by Gukesh. Very slowly with the black pieces. One move by one. There is no rush. Every move with some ideas. Now queen a4, for example, to bring this rook to a8. These knights are doing great job here, and you don't need and also want to put these knights in other square than what they are now. So knight h4, rook a8, knight f5, king f8. Maybe just not to bring the opportunity to play knight e7, knight d5, and somehow to attack this c7 pawn. So king f8, prophylactic move, rook ef1, rook a1, queen d3, queen b4 allows this rook to come also here on a1, a2, takes, c5, b takes c5. Just Vidit doesn't have some ideas here, some plans, so he just rush c5 with 12 minutes on the clock for 12 moves. He's playing the move c5, b takes c5, knight c4, and just queen e1. are threatening this rook on f2, checks on h1, g1, rook e2, rook queen g1 check, knight h5 check, knight df6 with g5 threat, checkmate in one move, knight takes h6, queen h2, what a wonderful move, just queen g3, checkmate, knight f5, rook f1. There is so many checkmates here. Also rook f5 is a threat because queen g3, and also rook f4, it's a threat after e takes f4, queen takes after rook f4, e takes f4, queen takes f4, g4 and g5 checkmate. So it's beautiful. For example, b6, rook f4, takes, g4 and g5. Yeah, it's just brilliant to see this one. And yeah, for example, g4, just rook takes g4, game over. And yeah, Gukesh is doing it great. g4 was played, rook takes f5, unbelievable move by Gukesh. And of course, rook h2, just g5, checkmate with two knights, rook and a pawn. Brilliant idea by Gukesh. He took e takes f5 and queen g3, king h4 and knight h7. After king h5, queen takes h3, it's a checkmate. Wonderful game by Gukesh. I think this game will be studied a lot in the next years. You know, this Italian game with the black pieces, to play each move, you are improving your pieces, you're improving your plan, you are thinking what is the opportunity for white, what is his plan, how can you avoid it, how can you prevent some moves. You know, just a brilliant game by Gukesh, I must tell it, because it's wonderful game. And don't you remember that the last game Gukesh lost with white piece, with the black pieces, of course, against Firouza. So he's coming back, Gukesh, with a brilliant, just fantastic game against his teammate in his country, Vidit. So congratulations, Gukesh, on this extraordinary game. Let's see the last this is the last game of Praggnanandhaa against Alireza Firouza in this 8th round of the FIDE Candidates tournament. Okay, so e4, c5, knight f3, e6 was played by Firouza, d4 takes, knight c6, knight c3, queen c7 was played. And in this position we probably know some lines, for example bishop e2, bishop e3, for example a6, queen f3 there is a move, bishop e2 is a move, a3 also can be possible, knight c6 also. So a lot of ideas here. Also knight db5, queen b6, bishop e3. Here there is a funny line that goes a6, bishop b6, takes, knight takes, bishop b4, c3, bishop a5, knight c7, queen takes, and bishop takes. And this is very interesting position to play. I think I played something like this with the black pieces, 3 pieces for a queen, and it's really nice to play this interesting position. So, and Prague is playing knight c to b5. What is his idea? Queen b8 after 9 minutes south. So Prague is just removing Firouza from his opening knowledge. Bishop d3 was played, a6, also 6 minutes by Firouza. Knight takes c6 immediately, b takes c6, and knight d4. It seems like Prague is knowing what he's doing here. c5, knight f3, knight e7 was played, castle, bishop b7, and now c3 was played by Prague. I think in this position more logical maybe to play b3, because this bishop on b2 will do a lot of sense for me personally, because you know this diagonal is very strong, and I'm not sure how this bishop will handle this diagonal. So for example knight g6, bishop b2, f6 maybe f6 to give the opportunity to play bishop e7 or bishop d6. But he played the move c3 after 18 minutes of thought. Praggnanandhaa is playing the move c3, knight g6, rook b1, and he wants just to put the b4 pawn, the b2 pawn to b4, and maybe to open this B file for the rook. So bishop e7, b4, castle, a4, queen c7 makes a lot of sense for Firouza. Connecting these two rooks, rook b8, rook c8, everything needs to be fine for black. This knight will jump to f4 maybe, or e5. This bishop on f6, this bishop is doing great job. I think black is just fine. Rook e1, d5 also. Takes, bishop e4, queen c7, takes. A lot of tactics here, but of course black is totally fine here. Bishop e3 takes, queen d3, queen c6, rook e4, rook c8, h3. Of course now, after rook, queen c3, queen a6, and maybe here there is some advantage, very small advantage for white, maybe to push this a4 pawn. But of course Firouza playing the move h6, a5, queen d5, takes here, rook a8, takes the pawn on a5, rook e1, queen d5, takes, g3, rook c8, rook e3, king f8, king g2, knight e7. A little bit play here, but nothing for both of the players. And in this position, they agree to a draw in the 40 moves of the game. Praggnanandhaa against Firouza, it's a draw. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I really recommend you, please, to subscribe my channel, like the video. It really helped me. And yeah, we will meet in the next video of FIDE Candidates 2024. Please feel free to ask any question, to comment below, and see you in the next time. Bye bye.